let's talk about the difference between oral and nasal breathing and what we're actually talking about. So, I mean, it sounds obvious. With oral breathing, your mouth is open, you are breathing in through your mouth, and the air goes straight down into your lungs. And with nasal breathing, your mouth can be open or closed, but the idea is that the air goes in through the nose. And we're going to talk about why that may or may not be useful, because in certain circumstances it is useful, in certain ones it isn't. But the interesting thing for me is when people talk about nasal breathing, they assume that the mouth is closed. And it doesn't have to be.
No, absolutely not. For instance, if you just position your tongue onto the roof of the mouth behind the front teeth, as if you're about to say that's a nasal consonant. So you don't need to close your mouth.
Well, there are three nasal consonants in the English language where... no, hang on. I'm going to rewind on that. There are two nasal consonants in the English language where your lips are open, but no air is escaping either in or out of your mouth, and that's the N and the NG. And with the N, the tongue is exactly where you said it is, which is up on the roof of the mouth behind the alveolar ridge. And with the NG, the back of the tongue has risen and the soft palate has come back down. So actually the blockage, if you like, is at the back of your mouth. And it's the way that we can tell whether you're doing an M, an N, or an NG, because they all block the mouth exit in some way, but they block it in different places.
Now, there's something else that I found out that was interesting about nasal breathing, and it is to do with the positioning of the tongue. Because maybe it's something that we don't think about in a conscious way, but the tongue is actually resting up on the roof of the mouth in most cases of people with nasal breathing. And this is thought to have beneficial effects, which we'll go on to later. So that was my sort of first experiment in answer to Sally's question, which is it could be useful, I think, for particularly helping avocational singers to balance their pressure-flow relationships. Because by doing the nasal breathing, maybe they're taking less air in the beginning, and then particularly when you're singing on a hum, which was what I chose to do to experiment, then you're kind of adjusting that pressure and flow relationship because there's a smaller outlet through the nose. Dear listeners, I wish I could show you the eye roll that Jeremy is performing right now.
I've done a series of eye rolls for a couple of minutes, only because it's not anything Gillyanne is saying is incorrect, but it's interesting that we assume. And what I want to know is the input of air through the mouth, does it create a different pressure from the input of air through the nose? And so I'm looking at the physiology and going, yes, actually it might, because if you think about the width that you can open the jaw and the width that you can open the lips, and therefore the size of the tube that you're actually breathing in and out of, that is much bigger than the width of the nasal cavities and the nasal, what do they call them? Conchae, the nasal conchae. We all have 6 nasal conchae unless we don't. So the nasal conchae are passages that are, I think I've got this right, we can always cut this out if I haven't got this right, but they are the passages, and we have 3 on each side, 3 per nostril, that take the air up and down into the throat.
Now, I have a nice factoid.
Go on.
And this is from the article from Nursing in General Practice, and we'll put the references at the end.
Yep.
With you talking about pressure and flow,
Yes.
and with my experiment.
Yes.
Nose breathing imposes approximately 50% more resistance to the airstream as compared to mouth breathing.
There you go.
This results in 10 to 20% more oxygen uptake.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's why everybody is banging on, quite rightly, about the importance of nasal breathing in everyday life, nasal breathing during sleep, sort of a prevention of sleep apnea, etc. And nasal breathing, as we go on to it later, as a way of calming the sympathetic system.
Okay.
So, maybe there's something in that.
There's a lot of pluses there.
There are a lot of pluses in there.